Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Another edition of Sports Daily. It's a big Friday edition. We will make picks, sure to fail, with Paul Savage in just a little bit. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor here with you. Jad Chambers producing. A chance to win some prizes, HTOT, coffee, Wichita Thunder hockey tickets. Man, that's coming. Tommy, we got a game, we're here.
Tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight. Opening night. Yeah.
So these tickets would be opening night tickets.
That's correct.
So if you want to go tonight, you'll have a chance to win some of those tickets. So stay tuned to that. Your IHOP hotline is the place for you to win all of these goodies, 869-1240. It's also the place where you can chime in on the show. By the way, it's brought to you by IHOP. Try IHOP's new slow braised beef pot roast or a savory country fried steak if you swing in there. You can also get in touch with us on our video streams, which you'll find on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Glad to be here with you, everybody, today. It is a football Friday. We'll get into the Chiefs. We'll get into K-State's game this weekend. Of course, KU is off. And, there are baseball playoffs happening. And, Tommy, I don't want to talk about it.
It was a rough night last night for you.
Yes, I
kept up on the game. I was kind of bouncing back and forth between that and Thursday Night Football. And man, it's a tie series. That was a crucial game. And now everything is all back square.
I'm just not okay with it. And I knew this possibility was right there. I knew it was right there. I knew this was very much in the cards of potential things to happen in this series. But it doesn't make it any easier. Doesn't make it any better. It's frustrating. I'm angry. I knew this could happen. The Rangers had their two good pitchers going, and then it falls off a cliff after that if Scherzer's not back, and that's what we're seeing right now. And the Astros are very capable of scoring lots of runs, and the Rangers they don't have much depth in the rotation, and their bullpen hasn't been good top to bottom. The back end has been okay in the playoffs, but man. Now you start over. You're going to bring their two big horses into the mix here again, and we'll see. I'm nervous. I'll tell you that right now. Very, very nervous. I was nervous though up 2-0. I told you that. 2-0, everything went well. That's fine, but that in no way does that feel the same as 2-0 normally feels because it's the Astros sitting there and they're a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I mean the Astros are that team that if you creak the door open even slightly, they're going to just kick it down, and that's what they do. That's what they've always done. That lineup is potent. It has been potent the last two games. And so now, really, obviously, momentum swings to the side of the Astros, and the Rangers are going to have to try to find a way to regroup and get back on it.
3:00 today. I don't plan on getting anything done. Just kind of kick back and watch that and deal with it. So that happened. The Diamondbacks, though. How about the Diamondbacks getting a game they kind of had to have there? And they've got a chance to sort of climb back into it a little bit here. I don't think many people are still not going to pick the Phillies in that series, but they got the win when they had to have it, and that's good to see for them certainly.
Well, they got the win, by the way, by shutting down the lineup for the Phillies, which nobody's really been able to do this entire postseason. And so they had really good pitching yesterday, walked it off in the ninth inning. That was a must win, obviously, for the Diamondbacks, but really impressive with their pitching and the way that they were able to kind of quiet the bats of the Phillies. And they've been outstanding all postseason long. So the Diamondbacks are going to have to follow that up with another kind of pitching performance like we saw yesterday.
They'll need to pitch their way through it. I think the Rangers will need to hit their way through it, quite frankly. I think they're going to have to start just really smashing a little bit. But the problem there for them is they've got Verlander coming up, so they've got their guy going again. But so do the Astros. Both Montgomery and Verlander are going on shorter rest in those game fives, which typically happens. They pitched on Sunday. So you've got what does that make 4 days in between, right? So normally it's 5 days rest, but this is the postseason. That's what you do, and we'll see that game again a little after 3:00. Phillies Diamondbacks tonight, in their game 4 of the series is at 6:00 tonight, I believe. So good stuff there. Baseball playoffs have certainly been entertaining and stressful if you've got a dog in the fight. Thursday night football, the other thing topically, Tommy, that we can get through real quick. We've got Wyatt Thompson coming up in our next segment to look ahead to the K-State game, just by the way. Thursday night football was an entertaining game. A lot of scoring, of course. Finally, we get a Thursday night football game with a little bit of offense in the mix there. The Jags get it done. They sort of let the Saints hang around a little bit and come back in that game, but they do get it done. They avoid overtime. Trevor Lawrence was fine, right? It wasn't like an overly impressive offensive game, but they got it done again. The Saints outgained them offensively. Alvin Kamara is all the way back. Holy smokes, Alvin Kamara. Former Hutch product, by the way. But, the Jags are sort of setting themselves here, Tommy, after a kind of, would we call it a rocky start? I mean, it felt rocky to me. They kind of look like they're for real here. Like, I don't know that anybody's going to call them the favorite or anything, but, 4 straight wins here. And I think they're squarely at the top with Kansas City and who else at the top of the AFC. Buffalo's got all the injuries. They beat Buffalo in Buffalo, but they've got all the injuries. Sorry, that was in London. They've got all the injuries to deal with. Buffalo does. Cincinnati still hasn't found their groove. Where do you power rank Jacksonville into the AFC mix?
Man, I think right now they've got to be top 3 in the AFC. I mean, I really think that. And really going back to the Chiefs knocking them off earlier this season, I think we're going to look back on that game all the way back in week number 2, I believe it was, and say that was an impressive win for Kansas City and very well could be the tiebreaker for home field advantage in the AFC playoffs. Think back to where the Chiefs were going into that game against the Jags. They lost on opening night to the Lions. They were at risk of falling to 0-2. The Jags are this, upstart team with Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence. They get the victory, and man, like they haven't looked back since then. That's been the start of the Chiefs' long winning streak. And I think that knowing the way that the Jags have played since then and how they played last night, we can look back on that Chiefs game as a really big win for them. Yeah,
and that's if they come into a tie. And, Jacksonville's going to play they both play in divisions where they can pile up some wins here. So, it's an interesting time. It is an interesting time right now in the AFC as Buffalo is going to have to reinvent itself a little bit defensively. And, Cincinnati's still trying to find a groove. I think Jacksonville's in the mix there. And if anybody else is, Baltimore's got a good opportunity this weekend. We'll find out. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, Wyatt Thompson, voice of the K-State Wildcats, will join us. We'll dig into K-State's matchup this weekend. And we've got plenty more to come on the show as well here. We'll do that next on Sports Daily.
The commercials are over.
Yo, I haven't got all day.
869-1240.
Time to get busy.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
Your new radio home for K-State Athletics, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. It's that time, Sports Daily, getting all the inside information on Kansas State. Let's go now to the voice of the Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson.
All right, and we welcome back Sports Daily with Wyatt Thompson, the voice of the K-State Wildcats. Happy to be here again this week with Wyatt. K-State, another night contest coming this weekend, coming up against TCU. They get the 6 o'clock kick. Wyatt, how are you?
Well, I'm doing very well, Jacob. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing good. You know, I know that you know what the buzz is all about here now as we look here locally at one of the great high school football players we've seen. It's funny, Wyatt. So I'm from the Texas Panhandle. Been here now a decade or so, but that's where I'm from and where I'm at, and where I grew up in Amarillo. Texas Tech is just 90 minutes down the road. So there's a lot of Tech fans in my area. A lot of my family has gone to Tech, and I started getting a lot of text messages to the tune of who is this kid? Like, what is this freshman? And I'm just like, guys, I'm telling you, I've been covering high school football for 20 years. Watched Brees Hall play down the street, and probably Avery Johnson, at least at the quarterback position, if not overall, is best high school football player I've ever seen. But the buzz is here, and it's real, and it's not going away now.
Oh, for sure. And you can certainly understand why. I've said this all week long. You know, I've had a lot of great things happen to me in my time at Kansas State in my 22nd year here. That was among them. I was so honored to be able to call that game and witness that. Let's remind everybody, he is a true freshman. He was playing in just his third game. It was his first ever Big 12 game. It was just an amazing thing. He looked so comfortable, didn't he? I mean, he's just
yeah.
It's amazing when you, for me personally, to watch him, but yet also in the same breath, listen to these coaches talk about, you know, how good he is and how he's handled everything so exemplary. It's just, it's not supposed to be this easy, and I know it's a hard game. He'll have his ups and downs as we move forward, I'm sure, but he's made it look pretty easy so far, buddy. No doubt about that.
So when we look at the question now, it becomes Thompson or Johnson. I do, and it was, you know, it didn't take till now. It was the question during that game, honestly. I think that you've got a quarterback battle, but I also think there is right now, and this may not stay this way forever, Wyatt, but, you know, Will Howard and Avery Johnson can both, to me, present something that does make it challenging for the opposing defense. I also think there is caution to be had. The one thing we haven't seen Avery Johnson do, we don't know if he's ready to really push the ball down the field as a passer, right? We haven't seen him do that. And we know he has the arm for it, but until you do it, and when you still control your own destiny to get into a Big 12 championship game, I agree that it makes sense to use both now, with the asterisk that could change at any minute when you've got the kind of athlete you have in Avery. What's your take on the quarterback, you know, position moving forward?
Well, to be honest with you, I thought you summed it up pretty well, at least from my perspective, because, I mean, everybody sees Avery's talent. There's no doubt about that. But you hit on something there. They haven't really cut him loose in the passing game yet. And yet, I think we all know he can really throw the ball. He can spin it. There's no question about that. I think that's a given. The real question is where is he at in the process in terms of, is he anywhere in the vicinity of a Will Howard in terms of reading defenses and how they disguise things and keys to that? I think that's the unknown now. As he continues to develop and gets better at that, who knows? I think the sky's the limit. I think he, you know, we saw him the other night go 8 of 9, and I love the throw to Jace Brown. I mean, he just ripped it. He just cut it loose and went with it. But we haven't seen him make a ton of throws yet. I think he is making very quick progress. But again, he does not have Will's experience in reading, and people like at this level, they do a lot of different things, and it's pretty complex. Let's see how he handles this, because I remember visiting a couple of different times this week with Coach Kleiman. He says, hey, I know people are concerned about who's going to start, but both of these guys are going to continue to play, and that's a good thing.
How long, though? I think that's the question.
Well,
why,
like, yeah.
What will
and
be
the
thing?
Is how will they handle it? I think we need to talk about that, don't you? Because let's think about what Will's been through. He led the team to a Big 12 championship last year. The way he and Adrian Martinez handled that last year was exemplary. Can we expect that to be the case again? I certainly hope so, but I don't know that we know that exactly. That is, I think, something that if you want to continue to have a great locker room and everybody's all in this together and all of those kind of things, there's some things to overcome there. If indeed that Avery's going to start playing, and we know he's going to start playing, but how much? I mean, if he's going to start playing a lot, now I think you have to look at that.
So, I guess that becomes the challenge, right? If we need to see if Avery can push it down the field, but that's going to be what Will Howard does. Are they they're not going to switch quarterbacks in the middle of a series? I don't think so. So what is the in-game part of that? I mean, I know, like, simply put, if a defense plays the way Tech or probably even Oklahoma State did, that's Avery's spot, right? Like, they're going to let the quarterback run. Well, now they're probably not going to do that. So if they defend that, is that Will Howard time, or do you think they give Avery some opportunities to try and go down the field and over the top of a defense?
Well, I think you have to give him opportunities, don't you? I mean, I think you just absolutely.
That's the only way to move forward.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, you can you could do it a whole lot of different ways and continue to take many steps. But I think the coaches have seen enough of this young guy to say, okay, we're going to give him opportunity. If he struggles, then we'll deal with that. If he's really, really good, we'll handle that and figure that out. I think I don't want to oversimplify it in any way, shape, or form, but I think you've got to give him opportunity. I think the real question is here, going back to what we said before, what do they want to do right out of the gate? And what is the real matchup with these two guys against TCU? Because they have 7 starters back defensively, and they're pretty good. They're physical and tough. So they, not that Tech and Oklahoma State aren't that, but that's kind of what these guys are. They play mean. They play hard and physical. And so it'll be a different and unique game that way.
So when we look at TCU, I would think that they're not going to defend K-State the way that Oklahoma State and Texas Tech defended K-State. They'll mix it up a little bit. I would think probably it's Will Howard early then. I just, again, this is why I like to split. I don't know what defenses are supposed to do. How do you, if you're the opposing defensive coordinator, pick your poison. Which poison would you pick? I think I'd make them throw the ball.
Well, that's an interesting thought, too, because if you go back to the beginning of the year and you're talking about K-State offensively, and let's say maybe 2 or 3 games in, what would you say was K-State's strength at that point? It was probably throwing the ball, right? Yeah. I don't know that that's necessarily still the same case today. And I say that based on, they've had some issues with, receivers getting separation. Especially, against man press, which we're going to see some. And then I think the run game has started to come along. You have to, I guess, equate how much of that is Avery, how much of that is the running backs, how much of that is Will. And it's probably a little bit of all of the above. I'm not sure who will go out there first, but I do have a sense that, I think they're going to let both guys really play. And we saw the game at Tech when Avery started having success in the third quarter. They just rode that horse as long as they could, and I get it. And will they do that this week, regardless of which guy is, having the most success? I guess that's the way I would see it. But again, I guess we'll have to let it play out.
So the interesting thing about this conversation and every conversation in the last week that I've had is we've spent all this time on this spot. And it's the most high profile. It's the local kid. He's, I get all of that. But the elephant in the room here is the defense, and it's got to get a whole lot better if K-State's going to hang in there in the Big 12 race.
Well, you may disagree with this, but I think they are getting better. I thought they.
I don't know what to think about the defense. I mean, they gave up 480 yards to Texas Tech.
Yeah, but on 79 plays.
That's true. That's a good point.
Points. That's the point that you have to look at. I mean, again, I'm not trying to say they're the 60s Packers or the 70s Steelers. I don't mean it that way, but I think they've been good for the most part, not dominant, but good against the run. They've made some progress with their play in the secondary. They've had some issues at linebacker and continue to have that in terms of injuries and what have you. So it has been a little bit rougher than I think they were expecting it to be, because you don't go into it expecting to lose Daniel Green, and now you've got Austin Romaine all dinged up. Who knows how much he'll be able to play? That's significant. But I you know what? Jacob Parrish, having him back last week was a big, significant thing. Keenan Garber played his best game at corner at K-State. Those other two guys, I think, are coming along, maybe a little bit slower than Keenan, but he's been around here a lot longer. Do they have to be better? Yeah, but I do also argue that they've been better, and still with a ways to go.
Well, and that's interesting to hear you say that, because you're paying as close attention to it as you can. So when I look at it, I'm like, okay, they looked great, right, in the opening two games, albeit against SEMO and Troy. And then in the four games since, when it's been the Power Five, and they've given up 400 yards at least in all four of those games. So I guess where I struggle is, okay, so they're not as good as maybe we thought they could be at the beginning of the year. What are they? And then is whatever it is that they are going to be good enough to, one, beat Texas, because that's probably what it's going to take to get into a Big 12 championship game. And if not that, even to hang around the top of the league, I guess that, good, bad, or indifferent, is it good enough to stay in that stratosphere, the Big 12?
That's perfectly said, because I don't think we know that. I think we're all hopeful, but I do think that, there are a lot of things that go into this. Let's go back to the game with Tech. One of the things that I thought kind of went under the radar a little bit, in all honesty, is that, again, I'll be repetitive here, but the secondary was better. I don't think if you look at sack numbers or whatever, anybody's going to look and say, wow, they were really good at Tech. But they beat the out of that quarterback in the first half, to the point where he couldn't play very much, if at all, in the second. And that's a significant piece. I still am a believer in that defensive front. I think Uso is playing well. I think they've got in rotation 4 defensive ends that are pretty good and some depth there. That is, for me, where it starts. Again, even with Romaine, the good news is on the outside of him, those other two guys, Desmond Purnell and Austin Moore, are playing really good football. So that's a decent thing there. That's not bad. Kobe Savage has, in all honesty, I think maybe our expectations of him were pretty high, maybe too high in the beginning, because he was coming off November ACL. But he's starting to play now like he did last year. One thing that has happened too, that I don't know that everybody understands this, and I'll preface this by saying I am not a football X's and O expert or coach, but this defense has been better since they made that switch with BJ Payne and Kobe Savage. It's just been better. It's helped BJ a lot, because that's where he played last year. That's where his experience was. That was a good move. Jacob has done a really good job there. And if the other guys come along, then you do have hope. One other factor that I have to be honest and say, it's turned out that Brady Cook and Mizzou are pretty good. Did you notice they just won at Kentucky?
Yep.
I mean, you got to take everything into consideration here, because Are they as good as we want them to be? No, not yet, but they are fighting. And I know in the time that I've been around here with Kleiman and Clanderman and Van Malone, those guys can coach, man. And I think that secondary will get better. They just will.
Oh, Oklahoma State just beat Kansas too. I mean, cautionary tale on going to
Correct.
Stillwater. I get that. TCU is interesting. I, in all honesty, have not watched a second of TCU football since the Colorado game to start the year. They've been pretty up and down, sort of what I expected them to be this year, at least, on paper. What do you know about the Horned Frogs, and what are they going to do this weekend?
Well, it is a total fair statement to say they've been inconsistent. I think the whole world was caught off guard with what happened with Colorado there in the opening weekend. There's a lot of things that have happened since then. I would tell you that Colorado has maybe regressed some. I think TCU has probably gone the other way. I think the wild card here is the quarterback position, because they were playing decent football with Chandler Morris. And then with Hoover now, who's a redshirt freshman, they are just happy as they can be, just throwing it all over the lot and playing very, very fast. I think that will be a unique thing here, and how K-State handles that in the game tomorrow night. I don't think they run it anywhere near what they did a year ago with Kendre Miller and with Max Duggan. So they're different there. They lost 2 pros in the offensive line. Not to say that they're not a solid offensive line, because I think they are, but they're not as dominant as they were last year. And then they've got 7 starters back on defense and the same coordinator. They also have offensive coordinators changed too. So they are different. It's obvious to say this. They're not what they were last year. Are they an upper third team in the Big 12? You could probably argue that a while. I don't know that they are right now, though.
Good luck trying to figure that out.
Make no mistake, dude. They've got some skill in the skill positions. That quarterback.
How do you figure out the tiers of the Big 12 right now? Like, good luck. I mean, I think we know the top tier, right? Looks like it's Texas and Oklahoma. And then, man, we all thought West Virginia and Iowa State were going to stink, and then here they are. And like, I got nothing. I have no idea what to think of the Big 12 this year. It's been a month.
Thought that West Virginia was going to be bad, and I think it was a little premature to think Oklahoma State and Iowa State were just going to lay down and do nothing. That's not how they operate. Yeah,
no, especially not at home.
Exactly.
Okay, it's speaking of being at home. It's been a month. I mean, it has been between a bye and 2 straight road games. It will be 2 days short of a calendar month since K-State's played a home game. I think that's a factor here. Is it almost, do you think there's any comparable effect to like the home opener of a season to go that long and then to get back there as far as an energy level in the park this weekend?
That's an interesting question. I hadn't really thought about it from that perspective, but I can tell you this. Visiting with our coaches and players over the last several days, they really are excited to be back home. And I think the way you equated that to an opening night is probably pretty legitimate, because most people don't have to go, 2 days short of a month to play, a home game. But that's exactly what has happened. This place will be jumping, I think. They're excited about Avery. I think winning at Tech excites them, or at least I hope it did. That's a hard place to play and not an easy place to win at, but K-State's, done a pretty good job of taking care of the Red Raiders of late. I hope people appreciate that. And I think they're going to see two football programs that are really fighting. It's Harley night. There's nothing not to like. I think we'll be packed here, sold out, and I just think it's going to be really high-level excitement. I do.
So we got a 6 o'clock kick again. What do you guys have coming up for us here on the K-State Radio Network tomorrow night?
Well, I'm excited for our pregame show, and I say that every week, and there's so much going on. But as per usual, you'll hear from Coach Kleiman and our coordinators. That is always great. I talked to Keenan Garber this week, and also to Trayshawn Ward, and I'm very intrigued by both of those guys. Trayshawn seems to be as healthy as he's been all year, had a really nice game the other night at Tech. And Keenan's one of the fastest guys on our team. I think a really good teammate on this club, and so we'll feature that, and lots of things going on. It's really a cool stretch here because we've waited almost a month, but now we get back-to-back home games, and this is Hardy night, as I mentioned, and then next week is homecoming when Houston comes in. So looking forward to the next couple of weeks.
All right, Wyatt Thompson, voice of the Wildcats. We'll see how much of the kid we see. We'll see if K-State can make it 2 in a row and come back with a fury. We appreciate the visit as always. Good luck on the call this weekend, and who knows what we'll be talking about next week.
Yeah, that's well said, because I think a lot is on the table here, right? I mean, that's an obvious statement, but I think everybody is talking about this, whether you're a K-State fan or a KU fan or whatever it might be. Everybody kind of wants to know how this is going to play, and I'm on the list too.
For the future of this team, for the future of this conference, for potentially the next 3 years. Like it is a storyline to watch for sure. All right, Wyatt, we appreciate it. Good. Have a good call this weekend, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, partner. I appreciate it.
There goes Wyatt Thompson, voice of the Wildcats. You'll hear him this weekend as K-State gets ready to take on TCU, and the local superstar Avery Johnson going to play to some capacity. K-State coaches not tipping their hand at all this week, so we'll just have to see on Saturday. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into the Chiefs just a little bit. Of course, we'll talk more about that. We got picks coming at the top of the hour. On the way out, Jad, let's give away some HTO here. How about it? Let's give away a coffee and a tea today. So we've got 2 opportunities here for you to try HTO. The iced tea available at Wichita West, East, and in Derby. You can get your hands on that. It is more than 25 flavors, the 2 new fall flavors, peach cobbler, apple pie. Check them out. And you can also check out the HTO Brew House, which is all the coffee drinks. If you're an iced coffee person, got you covered. All kinds of iced coffee. I'm a black coffee drinker. I think it's the best around. No intended bias there. I really do. I drink it every morning. I'm drinking it right now here on the show. Okay, so let's do first caller. You can get the coffee at HTO Wichita East or in Derby. The tea is good for Wichita West, East, or Derby. 869-1240 on that IHOP hotline. Jad will get us a winner. We'll come back. More Sports Daily right after this. All right, welcome back in, everybody. KFH here. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor will rejoin us soon. We'll have Paul Savage on as well to make some football picks. Congratulations to Steve for winning some HTO. Always good to hear from Steve. Appreciate everybody playing along. We'll give away some hockey tickets. The Wichita Thunder open the regular season tonight, and you can get an opportunity for a family 4-pack to that game. We'll do that in the second hour as well. Our appreciation to Wyatt Thompson there for joining us for a few minutes to talk about, what's become a real big topic all across the country with Avery Johnson. Like, look, we knew this was coming at some point, and now it maybe appears to be coming right now. He's going to have a big role. Colin Klein talked yesterday for K-State, and again, sort of echoed what Chris Kleiman said. And we knew this, right? They're not going to tell us how much anybody's going to play. And Klein said, well, we'll put our final game plan together on Friday, and then we'll know. But they're not going to say anything. They don't have to in college football, so they're not going to. But you'll hear that game right here on KFH this weekend. Programming note, otherwise, if you're around too and here locally on KFH, you'll need to go to CBS Sports Radio on the Odyssey app too. I'll be on from, what time am I on from this weekend? I think 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. on CBS Sports Radio. So it's sort of in unison with that K-State game. Certainly going to be watching that while I'm on the air there and doing some other things. So you can tune in there if you'd like this weekend. Tommy, welcome back in. A lot of interesting stuff from Wyatt Thompson. He's with us, man. Like, he's just sort of buckled up and watching this thing with K-State. Something interesting, Tommy, he brought up, and it was something to look for. He thinks the defense is making progress. He brought up when I talked about almost 500 yards of offense allowed to Tech, he brought up the fact that, but it was on 71 plays. There was almost a game script aspect to that. Yeah. But he's seeing progress in the defense. So that, is it enough progress? That becomes the question. And of course, he doesn't have the answer to that, but he does think that this team is getting better on that side of the ball. The reality is they're going to have to be better on that side of the ball if they want to hang around and potentially get into a Big 12 championship game.
And I think that's a really good point. We can spend all day long talking about who is going to be a better quarterback, whether it's going to be Will Howard or Avery Johnson, and if the Wildcats should hand the reins entirely to Avery or whatever. That's a debate, but really another huge question is the defense good enough to win a Big 12 championship despite who the quarterback is, or regardless who the quarterback is? I think that's a really important question that is probably getting overlooked in favor of the more flashy and fun conversation of who's the better quarterback to lead the team.
It is. It 100% is, because the reality is both of those guys give them great opportunities offensively. It's can they get there defensively? So that's and this will be such a great test for them this weekend against TCU. So we're excited about that game. That's the Avery Johnson factor, though. Now, right? Like, he's going to give us excitement in every game that they play, regardless, because it's one of those things to watch, obviously for K-State fans, but really for college football fans, for NFL fans, because he's going to be the type of play. And we knew this coming in because of what he did at some of the skills camps and things, that he's going to be in the in the conversation of a guy that plays on Sundays. But then, for the Big 12 as a whole moving forward, right? Like, you're talking about potentially what we saw with Jalen Daniels this year, quite frankly, where you've got, the offensive player of the year type guy at quarterback at that position at the school that you watch. So, there'll be a lot of intrigue there, certainly with that game. Looking forward to it again. You'll hear it, all the pregame coverage and everything on the home of K-State Athletics right here on KFH. Before we get into picks, Tommy, let's spend just a second here with the Chiefs. I think Frank Clark is coming in right today for a visit with the Chiefs. If Frank Clark comes in, I think yesterday we did a pretty good job of identifying like what McCole Hardman's likely to be here, which is a special teams guy for sure, a gadget guy, basically what he was before, right? Which I pump the brakes on him coming in and all of a sudden taking over the position. He was never able to do that when he was here to begin with in Kansas City. When I say here, Frank Clark's interesting though. Frank Clark has been a big part of things for Kansas City. Playoff Frank and all of those things. I just wonder if he comes in, how much he's going to play, because it obviously didn't go well in Denver. Like, does he find his way into the rotation? They clearly drafted his position out, right? They drafted Felix Anudike-Uzama. I don't think you want to have any regression from him. So what do you even do with Frank Clark if he does come in?
Well, I think he can be used as a veteran presence in the locker room. By all accounts, he's a great locker room guy, a good mentor, a good veteran presence on the defense. I mean, remember, like it was pretty well documented how he helped George Karlaftis a year ago grow when Karlaftis was a rookie on that defense. And, I think that he could do the same thing for Felix Anudike-Uzama. It's Felix's job, right? Like they drafted him in the first round for that reason. And, so he's going to be growing as a rookie, but having a veteran presence and a guy who's been to Pro Bowls and a guy who has won a Super Bowl and all of those other accolades that Frank Clark has had throughout the course of his career, that's valuable, I think, for a rookie to be able to learn that. We saw that with Karlaftis a year ago. I think we'll be able to, see that with Felix Anudike-Uzama for the remainder of this season if Frank Clark ends up coming back.
I mean, it's insurance and it's depth for sure, right? The locker room piece of it, I don't know that part, right? Like, we know he's had some off the field issues, but we know that he was a beloved teammate, right? And I think you can put some value in that. I don't think it hurts anything because it's not going to cost them anything. What will be interesting to see, I think, is if, as the trade deadline approaches, is if these are the moves they decide to make, right? Hardman and Clark and bringing them back in, or if they do have any bigger picture ideas. My guess is they don't. My guess is this is what they're doing.
Yeah, I think it'll be Hardman and
if they get Clark. That's not a done
Clark.
deal yet.
Yeah. And I think they will, right? Like, I don't know if there are going to be a lot of other teams that are going to.
It's passing a physical, basically, is what it sounds
go out there and do that. Yeah, he wants to come back, I would imagine, and he wanted to come back to Kansas City during the offseason, and Chris Jones wanted him back, and that was made pretty clear on social media throughout the course of the offseason. And then he signs with the Broncos, and everybody's like, "Oh no, he's with the Broncos," and that didn't work out. And now it's kind of like, I think Chiefs Kingdom will welcome him back with open arms, especially considering, as you just mentioned, he's not really costing you much.
No. All right. Coming up in the next hour, we've got picks with Paul Savage. We'll have some high school football talk as we get down to the nitty gritty here of the regular season. These picks this week are going to be tough. I'll tell you that. They always are. I veered away, from trying to pick a bunch of Big 12 games as much as I did. There's some really good college football matchups this weekend. So I kind of leaned in there a little bit more than Big 12. So pretty happy to do that. And then we've these NFL games. This is also, we talk about college. Sometimes the NFL doesn't give us good matchups, right? That happens. Like, there are weeks where you're just like, this is not one of those weeks. I think there are some awesome NFL games this weekend, including Chiefs Chargers, which should be, one of the head, but there's some really good litmus test games this weekend. I mean, you get Miami, Philly in primetime. Can't ask for more than that, right? But that's not it. Like, there are really good and compelling and difficult, as you'll see in just a second, and we get into the top of the next hour, games to pick this weekend. It is a good football weekend. Even with
Lions
KU
and Ravens,
off this
by the
week.
way, like, that's a great matchup that we'll
now.
be able to see. We talked to Chelsea yesterday about how, at least at the time, I haven't looked at it today, but the Lions were underdogs and they're 5-1 on the road in Baltimore. So there are some really, really, really fun matchups.
I'm in on Pittsburgh Rams. They're good ones. We're not picking this one, and maybe we should have Monday Night Football. Man, Niners Vikings has some interest too, as they're coming off of a loss. We'll do all that next. We'll get into the 10 games we pick. We'll go back through the results from last week, which I'm happy to go through. Again, I had a good week last week. Picking, not betting, which is always so funny to me. Some of my worst picking weeks on this show are some of my best betting weeks. I don't know how that happens. 869-1240. Paul Savage joins us. We'll be back with more Sports Daily right after this.
Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Hey, sports bettors, ready for some picks destined to fail? It's time to hear what the Sports Daily staff thinks of the weekend games.
Welcome back into Sports Daily, everybody. You guys remember this song? Pharrell?
Oh, yeah.
Love this song. I think it was my... I may be remembering this incorrectly. I think it was my bachelor party. Is this song that old? Is this like an 11-year-old song, 10, 11-year-old song?
We're talking
we,
like probably 2013.
We went to Vegas, and like this was the theme song of the trip. And we actually did win some money on that trip. So it played through. We were lucky on that trip. That's that song, Pharrell and Daft Punk. It's a great song. I love it.
Well, there you go.
All right, let's make some picks, fellas. Sure to fail. Did not fail for me last week. I led the way at 7-2-1. surpassing Paul Savage for the first time in what feels like, I don't know, 24 months, Paul.
What's going on?
How does that feel?
Well, I'll tell you
How does it feel down here with the peasants?
Not good. Not good. I mean, I'm feeling like Tommy, and that's the worst part about it.
Thank you.
I feel like Tommy, and obviously I'm inadequate. That's I can't believe it. In fact, I'm stunned. I'm almost lost for words as to what my reaction would be. But it's time to take it back. It's not that big a lead. I don't think you're leading.
You should feel like that. You guys were both 4-5 last week. I'm 2 games ahead of you overall.
Is it 2? I knew it was. I knew it wasn't a lot. I mean, I can make it up this week. Tommy, I don't think you have a prayer, but I can make it up this week.
I took some shots last week in the picks too. I had Cleveland. That I was on an island there. There was another island.
There were 2 or 3 islands that you were on that you
kind of thought. It was Oklahoma State is what it was.
What
it was.
Yes,
Oklahoma State.
That is correct.
Because and it's the same. Like that's the thing. Like sometimes you just got to realize again. Mike Gundy apparently doesn't lose games at home when he's an underdog.
Yeah,
and that held true.
Right.
When it on paper it didn't look like a good matchup for them. Okay,
Tommy, are you tired of reviewing Jacob's wonderful week? I'm a little worn out on it.
Do we need to go through all 10 last week?
Let's go through all 10. Let's hear all 10 of your picks. Yes, that's great.
Yeah.
Yes, why don't we?
No, I'm sitting back and listening because my picking has not been good, so I don't really have much to contribute.
All right, let's not do that. Let's go ahead to this week's picks. Jad, hit the music, and we start with maybe the premier game on the college football schedule this week, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
But Penn State, Ohio State should be fantastic. Ohio State is 4.5-point favorite at home. I'll go first since I won last week.
All right.
I'm gonna ride the Nittany Lions here, fellas. I'm gonna take those points. And can they finally get over the hump and be a real contender for a national championship? I think that they can. Man, they've been good this year. Ohio State probably has more impressive wins, but I think this is Penn State's spot. They've been waiting for this for what feels like a decade. I'll certainly take the points, and I'm going to take the Nittany Lions. Tommy?
Ohio State has a couple different times this season not really impressed. They've won, but they've not really impressed. Last week, though, was a different scenario where they absolutely did impress. I know Penn State is tough, and they always play things tough, but this game is at home at Ohio State. I'm going to take the Buckeyes, and I'll lay the points.
All right. Paul, I don't think there's a wrong way to pick this one. You break the tie here. Where are you at with this game?
Exactly what both of you guys have said is really the situation on this game. I guess if there's something that makes me go with Ohio State, it's that they're the home team. Playing in the horseshoe is always difficult. Yeah. It's a difficult place to go play. Even though you're given 4.5 points, it'll probably be 10 points one way or the other, but I don't know which way it's going to be. I'm going to go ahead and take Ohio State. And Tommy, if for no other reason, it's the horseshoe.
Okay. Look, I get it. I mean, they would be favorites if you took, if home field's worth 3 points, and maybe it's worth more than that in college. They are being favored. So,
right.
It's a Penn State thing for me more than I think Ohio State's obviously really good. They beat Notre Dame. All right, Tennessee and Alabama as we move to the SEC. Bama starting to pick up a little steam here as a 9-point favorite at home against the Volunteers. Tommy, you can start us off here in this SEC showdown.
I think the big question is Bama back? And I don't know if they're all the way back, but at least they've started to improve the last couple of weeks, and they've started playing the way that we expect to see Nick Saban-led teams play. So that being said, I know the number is 9, but I do think that Bama can beat Tennessee by 10 or more. I'm going to take Bama at home. I'll lay those points.
Paul, what do you think?
Something Tommy's making a lot of sense here. Now, let's not forget, Tennessee's a pretty good football team, fellas. It's not a bad team.
They are.
They're a good football team, but this is at Bama. Bama is, I think, starting to kind of come around. It's taken them a lot longer than most Nick Saban teams have taken to come around. I'm going to join Tommy. Tommy, I'm with you. I'm going to take Bama at home.
I'm going to take this island. I think Alabama is certainly finding momentum. In the SEC in games like this, they tend to be closer. At least they have this year. I don't know what to really think about Tennessee in general, but I do think that Alabama doesn't appear to be the kind of team this year that's just going to smash its fellow conference mates. Maybe they proved that this week, but I'm going to take 9 points here in a big-time SEC game. Duke and Florida State. You want to talk about an opportunity for Duke, right? Like, this is a big spot for Duke, Paul, to go out and prove something. Can they do it against the juggernaut Seminoles this year, laying 14.5 points?
Right. I'll tell you what, that's a lot of points. But here's the thing. Duke's pretty good. I did not really realize Duke was as good as that. And they played somebody about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I watched some of it. I watched probably
the Notre Dame game. Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was. But they're not a bad football team, fellas. And I'm just stunned at that. Physical. Most Duke teams are not as physical as this particular Duke football team. And you know, I put a big premium on physicality. And but Florida State is giving 14.5. Man, I don't the half even scares me a little bit. But can I take Duke? I don't think so. Not at home in Tallahassee. I just got to take Florida State, and I think I'll be on an island. I just predict both of you guys are going to take Duke. I'm taking Florida State, and I'm going to give 14.5. Can't believe I did that.
You're not going to be on an island, Paul. You know, Duke had the big win against Clemson to start the year, and in fact, a bigger win against Clemson, albeit it was at home, or at least it wasn't, at Clemson to start the year.
Right.
But since then, they've played Lafayette, they've played Northwestern, they've played UConn. Great, you can beat them. They lost to Notre Dame, and they beat NC State last week pretty handily. So I don't want to take anything away from them, but I don't think that they've played a team this good. Whereas you look at Florida State, they've got a win over Clemson as well, at Clemson, by the way. And they remember what they did to LSU. I think Florida State's really, really good, fellas, and I'm gonna lay the points as well. It's not a knock on Duke; it's a tip of the cap to Florida State. Tommy, you get a ranked opponent island potential here, getting more than 2 touchdowns. Where you at?
Well, look, I mean, with all due respect to Mac Brown and the North Carolina Tar Heels, I think that there's a good argument to be made that Duke is the second best team in the ACC behind Florida State. Mike Elko has done phenomenal things with the Blue Devils program this season, and North Carolina is really good, but I think Duke might be just a step above where North Carolina is this season. I know the Tar Heels are ranked 10th and Duke is ranked 16th, but man, I just think talent-wise, watching what I've watched from Duke, they're really fun to watch. It would be different for me if the line was under 14. If it was 13.5, then it would be a little bit different, but it's 14.5. And I do actually think that Duke can keep it within 2 touchdowns. So I will take that island. I'm going to take Duke, and I'll take the 14.5.
All right, so that gives Tommy an island there. That's an interesting one. It's a lot of points. We don't usually pick games that have that big of a spread. So
hard to blame him, though, Jacob. Hard to blame him.
Oh, no. When you're behind, you take that. That's a good dart throw.
That's
all right.
Good
Utah, USC. USC coming off a disappointing loss by their own standard here. 7-point favorites against Utah. I think I'm up first. I'll go. God, this is hard. They're 7-point favorites. Boy, they just can't play any defense, can they? Like I don't know here. Utah coming off of a 20-point win over Cal. They still don't have their quarterback. I don't know what to do here. I'll take USC. They can bounce back here. They have to. They have to bounce back. Caleb Williams is in a big spot back at home. I don't like this one at all, but I'll take USC and give 7 points. Tommy?
Well, really the only stumble that Utah has had this year was that game against UCLA where they only scored 7 points in that loss against the Bruins. But that being said, I mean, I've taken USC a couple different times this season, and I've been disappointed every time I've taken them. I think the shine is wearing off a little bit on Caleb Williams. I think he's still obviously a great player, but I'm not sure the hype has really kept up with the way that he actually is playing this season. Considering that Utah is getting 7 points, man, I think I'm going to take the Utes, and I'll take those points.
Paul, you break the tie here.
Yeah, this is the easiest pick. This is the easiest pick of the week.
Okay.
In the whole deal. Utah's a good football team. USC, we talked about it when they played Notre Dame. Didn't we discuss defense on USC? I think we made the point, or at least I made the point while picking that their defense is suspect. They
can't
not
play a lick.
Yeah, they're not that good.
Not just suspect, it's bad.
Okay, there you go. And Caleb, what was his last name again? You get
Caleb Williams.
I was being sarcastic.
You forget who he is?
Yeah, he's almost out I mean, when did we talk about Caleb Williams the last time as a Heisman contender? This is a team that's decent, but it's not good enough. 7 points is not enough. Utah wins this game.
Wow.
By 14.
Yeah, no,
Whoa.
I don't think that's crazy. I don't think that's crazy. This is a big spot for Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley.
It is.
Okay.
That is right.
K-State, Cats, 6.5 against TCU. They've been playing a lot of close games lately. Tommy, I believe you're up first on this one. You think they can cover that number?
This one's obviously really difficult considering what we talked about all week long. Number one, the defense with Kansas State. Number two, what are they going to do at quarterback? We don't really know. And I think it's probably they're going to take what the game gives them and what TCU gives them. TCU, they're finding their way, but they're still very inexperienced with the freshman quarterback in Chandler Morris. I think the Wildcats win 2 in a row. I'm going to take them. I'll lay the 6.5. I think that the Wildcats can win by a touchdown. Paul, you agree?
I think I do. I think I do, and I think I will. I believe that's probably pretty close. I've been on this week. I seem to be going with the home team a lot, other than Utah. So I'm going to go ahead and go with K-State. I think Tommy's probably pretty close. I'm going to take K-State.
I'm going to make it a sweep. Guys, they haven't been at home in a month. That place is going to be nuts on Saturday.
It is.
I think it's going to be tough on TCU. I think Kansas State has a really good opportunity with both of those quarterbacks to make things hard on the TCU defense. I think the Cats cover that number. I like that. That's a game this week I'll actually be betting. I like the Cats there, and I've been wrong about them this year. They've been a little tricky on me this year. All right, let's switch to the NFL now. Lions, Ravens. Tommy, you mentioned this one before the break. Paul, you go first. Your boy Dan Campbell. He's an underdog this week.
Yeah,
he's getting 3 points in Baltimore.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, I kind of still like him. I still want them to be successful. I'm going to pick with my heart. I'm not going to pick with my mind on this one because obviously I'd probably take the Ravens. I mean, we're going to break it down. You guys are probably both going to take the Ravens. I'll probably be on an island, but I'm going to go with my heart. It doesn't hurt to go with your heart. I'm a loving guy, as you guys know. I'm going to go ahead and take the Lions and my man, Dan Campbell.
He is your man. Do we have an update on David Montgomery? Like, is he going to play? I don't think he is, right? Like, he's out, and it's going to be the Jahmyr Gibbs game. I'll take the Ravens because I think Tommy's going to take. I think Tommy's going to be with you, Paul.
Oh, really?
I'm going to take the Ravens because I think David Montgomery is out. He's expected to be out, and if he's not there, I think it really limits what the Lions want to do in games. It's basically a coin flip game. The home team's there. I'm going to take the Ravens -3 here. I think it's a trap, by the way, by Vegas. I think most people will see the Lions as an underdog and jump on it. That's another part of it. Tommy, what do you think?
I mean, whether or not it's a trap game, I don't know the answer to that. But what I do know is that, man, the Lions have exceeded expectations. I've been lower on the Lions, as you all know, since the beginning of the season. I haven't bought into the hype. But man, they're 5-1. And, I know that with the issues that David Montgomery, injury issues that he has, that might play into it. But they've gotten more healthy at least at the wide receiver position with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jameson Williams is back. Man, you're telling me that a 5-1 team going on the road is getting 3 points. The Ravens have been really up and down. A couple of weeks ago, they couldn't do anything offensively. I'm going to take the Lions.
Really?
I'm going to join Paul. I'll take those points.
Attaboy.
That was a strategic move on my part. That's what I thought would happen. I'm glad to get that one because I don't know. I think it's a coin flip. I wanted the island there. Okay. Here's another one that I think is very difficult. Steelers at the Rams. Rams are 3-point favorites. I think I'm first here. The Steelers have been the most frustrating betting team of the last 2 seasons.
No kidding.
I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Right? Like whether it's player props or games themselves, the Steelers are hard as like I do not have a good feel for them. The Rams have Cooper Kupp back. They've got Puka Nacua, but they don't have Kyron Williams, and they're going to rely on a rookie in the backfield. And I think that could be a problem. And I think for a less mobile Matt Stafford, TJ Watt could be a real big problem. I think I'm going to take the points here. This feels like to me, I believe they're coming out of a bye week too. This feels like a Mike Tomlin game to me. where he can make it ugly, figure out a way to make it ugly. I think they get Deontay Johnson back this week. You know, they're kind of getting healthy while the Rams are dealing with some injuries. I'm going to take the points here. I'm going to take Pittsburgh and take 3 points. Tommy?
I think that's the trap right there. I don't think Pittsburgh is very good. I think
I don't either.
I don't either. Think they look at the Steelers and they're like, man, this, I think they're thinking of a Steelers team from a few years ago. This is not the Pittsburgh team that we've been used to seeing consistently win in the playoffs and all of that. Because I just don't think that they're that great. I mean, they got absolutely trounced by the Texans a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to take the Rams at home. I'll lay those 3 points. I think that the Rams are a sneaky good team this year. They're much improved. I'm going to take LA at home -3.
I'm almost betting on Mike Tomlin and TJ Watt here as much as I am anything else with the Steelers. Paul, you break the tie again on this one.
Yeah, Tomlin's the key. I mean, I remember early on losing a game, picking the Steelers, and a lot of that, it was early in the season, and a lot of that was, well, Tomlin can coach. Coach Tomlin's good. He knows what he's doing. He's experienced. He is what we would call one of the top 4, 5, 6 echelon type coaches, and I put a lot of stock in it. They're not very good. I can't take the Steelers. I don't think they're fundamentally sound the way they have been in the past. I don't know why, but that's what I think. I'm taking the Rams, and this is almost easy for me.
All right. Well, I'll take that island.
That's not a good island. That's not a good island.
I'm not as excited about that island as I am the Ravens island. But Tommy, you think it's a trap one way. I almost think it's a trap the other way. Like, I think that's another one that's like, yeah, I would bet that the public money goes to the Rams there, but we'll see.
I mean, I think the Rams win by 2 touchdowns.
Packers, Broncos. Oh, they easily could. Packers, Broncos in maybe like a doo-doo bowl type game here. We'll see what the Packers can do, but the Broncos are getting a point at home, Tommy. Again, I put this one on here because it's a strange one. It's a strange line. It's everything about it's strange. Green Bay's coming out of a bye. What are you looking at on this one?
Packers all day. I don't think that either one of these teams are really very good, but man, I mean, it's a coin flip. We're picking who's going to win the game when the Broncos are getting 1 point. I think the Packers go on the road after the bye. They get healthier. Christian Watson looks healthy. Romeo Doubs looks healthy. I think that, I think the Packers will have used the bye to hopefully help Jordan Love out a little bit, and they've gotten that time to get a little bit healthier. The Broncos are a train wreck. Defensively, it's really bad, as we know. I'm going to take the Packers, and I'll lay that 1.
Paul, you taking the Broncos? Is a chance for the Broncos here?
I'm taking the island. I'm going to go ahead and take the Broncos. I'm going to go on the island. I'm already predicting an island.
It's a good prediction because I'm not. Yeah.
So I already knew I was going to have an island. You know, why not? It's my second home team. It's like a home team to me. I'm going to go with them because they are at home. They got to play in Mile High, and Green Bay is at sea level, and they're going to the mountains, and they're 5,000 feet up. And Tommy, that is the worst analyzation of a football game you probably have ever heard. But I can't figure out any other way to justify taking my pick of the Broncos. I can't come up with anything. So I'm going to take the Broncos because of the altitude.
Analyzation. I was about to call you out, Paul. That is a word. I wasn't sure. I just looked. Analyzation is a word.
Good.
So you're clear there.
Well, good.
Shame on me. All right. I didn't know if that was a savageism or not, but it's not. That's good.
Yeah,
that one counts. You're right. I'm not taking the Broncos.
Yeah,
I've been higher on Green Bay than most. Jordan Love has not been good lately. Certainly not as good as he looked early in the year. I assume coming out of a bye that they'll finally get healthy to some degree, and this is a real good get right opportunity for Jordan Love and the Packers offense. I'm going to take the Packers coming out of the bye I think it's an opportunity here, guys. Like, Denver's going to win a game at some point, but man, their defense has been terrible. I'll take the Packers. Chargers, Chiefs. Paul, you're up first on this one. One of the trickier games of the week. Chiefs laying 5.5 against a team that always seems to play them close.
Well, and they've got some skills. I mean, the Chargers are a good physical football team. It'll be a great game to watch. I think it's going to be a fairly close game. 5.5 worries me because I think this is going to be a close football game. But, because it's at home, because we're all Chiefs fan and we live in Chief country and the Chiefs are my number one team, I'm just going to go ahead and take the Chiefs. I'm not going to analyze it or break it down. I just like the Chiefs. You got Patrick Mahomes, come on, let's go. And, of course, Taylor Swift will be there.
She will be there.
Yeah.
Will she? I'm asking. I don't know. I haven't seen that.
Sure. Yeah. Go where your man goes. That's what you do.
Paul is up to speed on entertainment tonight here. I've got to go next, don't I? You know what? I think the Chargers will play them close.
Attaboy.
I think they're more desperate here. I don't think they'll win, but I think they'll play them close because they always do. Just another opportunity for the Chargers to somehow blow it or make a big mistake late. I think they can stay within 5.5. I'll take the Chargers within 5.5. I don't think they'll win, but I think they can stay within the number. Tommy?
This is tough because, as we know, the Chargers always play the Chiefs close. That's just the way that this matchup typically works. The Chargers are typically playing the Chiefs to around a field goal, but the Chiefs, as of late, have been better covering their number. So knowing that, I think I am going to take Kansas City and I'll lay the 5.5. I think it's going to be difficult. It wouldn't surprise me if it is another field goal type game, but I'm going to take the Chiefs and I'll lay those points.
Yeah, I got nothing on that game. I think it's going to be close. I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to for me. Is I do think it, but close can be 6 points, 7 points too. That's what makes it really tricky. All right, Dolphins Eagles. Eagles minus 2.5 at home. I'm first here to wrap it. I got to tell you guys, I love the Eagles minus 2.5 when we talk about this game. And I think that probably will surprise you, but Miami hasn't really played anybody, right? Like they had the, when you look at their wins, they got smoked by Buffalo, smoked by 4 touchdowns. They beat the Chargers on the road. If you think the Chargers are good, you can have that one. But it's the Patriots, the Broncos, the Giants, and the Panthers. Those are their other wins. 4 of the worst teams in football. I don't think they've really played anybody. I think the Eagles, while are a step back, which I do think the Eagles are not what they were last year yet. I think this is the spot where Miami learns you can't just run all over everybody. You're facing one of the top run defenses. Their defense hasn't been incredible, Miami's. I'm going to take the Eagles at home here, minus 2.5. I think this is a pretty good spot for the Eagles to reestablish themselves. Tommy?
I love the Dolphins in this game, plus 2.5. I'm going to go the exact opposite direction from you. With the firepower that they have offensively, I know that they're missing Achane. I think he'll be back in a couple of weeks off of IR, but they've still got Raheem Mostert. They've still got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Tua, of course. Looks like a legitimate MVP candidate right now. Really, the big question is defensively, what can the Dolphins do to limit Jalen Hurts and that Eagles offense? But I'm going to take the Dolphins because they're giving me 2.5. I'm going to take them.
Well, that makes total sense. I mean, to me, it makes total sense, although it's wrong, but I get it. But, to put Tommy on that island, I if I was to take the Dolphins, that would be 7 islands for Jacob, but it's only going to be 6 islands. Jacob, I'm taking the Eagles.
Really?
I'm taking the
Eagles. A lot of islands.
But Jacob, you understand, you are on 6 islands as we speak right now. 6.
No, I didn't understand that.
6 islands. I
Time
think
to make up some ground here for me, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, that is a record.
We could end this contest real quick, one way or the other.
Well, this has never happened. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think anybody has ever been on 6 islands.
No, I doubt it.
No.
This could be a case of I'm getting a little too cute and too smart with myself after last week is what it could be.
That could happen.
We'll find that out pretty quick. That's 10 games. That's the pick. Sure to fail. We'll see. Jad has the receipts. We'll get the update on Monday. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll get some high school football talk, fellas. We had, game of the year last week in Cheney. We got to talk about that one and some other things on the line this week as we're 1 week left in the regular season. Matt Henderson with Catch Kansas will join us. We'll have more Sports Daily right after this. All right, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily. I believe we have Matt Anderson here from Catch It, Kansas to join us, and we're working on Matt. That's what it is. We're working on Matt. All right, so while we get Matt here real quick, fellas, let's take a second when we're talking about high school football. You got to talk about Cheney last week against Andale. They snapped the streak. They get the win. Cheney has put together a really nice program for the last few years that hasn't been able to get over that hump, but they have a better defense this year, and they got the win, and it was in crazy overtime fashion, and it was a massive comeback at the same time. Like that was what high school football is all about. That was a lot of fun last Friday.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you can really overstate the importance of that and how big of a win that is for Cheney. I mean, not only, and I'm not sure if even just the casual person knows how great of a program Andale has had forever. I mean, to a point to where like they've got people there filming documentaries about how good that football program is and historically has been. So congratulations to Cheney, but also congratulations to Andale for having a streak the longest in the nation. That's incredible.
Paul, you're a high school football guy. I mean, this Andale run's been as impressive, right, as anything we've seen in this state forever.
Now, you know what a program is? A program, that's somebody that does the same thing over and over and over. And this is what Cheney is. It's like almost like a football factory. It might be another way of putting it. But what they do is amazing because everything is so consistent. What they're doing now, they'll do next year, and the year after that. And they shuffle the kids through. For a school that size, guys, they have 80 to 100 kids in the weight room all through the summer, all the way through, at all legal times, wherever. They don't cheat, I can tell you that. But whatever's legal, they have those kids in the weight room, and it's an amazing process. It is as close to a real program on a consistent basis as in the entire state of Kansas. And I'm not probably saying anything you guys don't know. But for those who are not familiar with Andale, that's what they do. They coach the same thing year after year. It is a program, and those kids have bought in, and they got a lot of kids in that program. It's an amazing, amazing streak that they had. And trust me, guys, they're going to start another streak. And I do not believe that this changes the fact that I would still choose Andale will probably win 3A. Cheney did great and all that kind of thing, and I get it. But, I would still choose, if we had them on our Friday football picks, I would probably still take Andover over Cheney in a state tournament.
Andale, yeah, I think most people agree with you. All right, let's bring in Matt Henderson now, executive producer, catchatkansas.com. Matt, so this is the end of the regular season, and, maybe a little non-traditionally in how we've done this. Give us, what playoff scenarios. And I know there are 1,000 of them, but what are some of the most daunting metro area playoff implication type things happening tonight?
Hey guys, so the biggest thing that we're looking at tonight as far as playoffs go is going to be coming from the smaller classes. Plenty of district championship games tonight. I would say the most notable are a couple in Class 2A, one a little further out of our area, Nemaha Central and Sabetha. They're the top two teams in Class 2A, both 7-0. But then right there behind them, Southeast Saline and Ellsworth, both 7-0, going for a district championship. Just much closer to home here, Kingman Garden Plain playing tonight for a 2A district championship. Both teams 6-1, only lost to the team we were just talking about, Cheney. So some very good games there. Class 3A, most of those are settled. Heston and Collegiate play tonight. So that'll be a very important game. I'm sure Heston's really looking at that because, Collegiate's quarterback, Hudson Perales, transferred from Heston this year for his senior year. So Heston has a chance to spoil that for them and maybe take a district title there. Sedgwick playing at Marion. Marion's one of the biggest surprise stories in Kansas. They're still 7-0. So a lot of fun ones happening tonight.
So we were just talking, obviously, about Andale and Cheney and that matchup a week ago. And from your perspective, as somebody that covers high school football as closely as you do, for anybody that, maybe just casually knows about Andale, but maybe doesn't know the inner workings of the way that program has just been a factory year after year, number one, what does that win for Cheney ultimately mean for the program moving forward? And number two, I would imagine it's just right back to work for Andale. And, I think their thought process now is probably just starting a brand new streak, right?
Yeah, with Cheney, I had the opportunity to do our season preview with them, opening day of practice this year. And that was one of the questions I asked them. It was all right, what do you guys have to do? What do you have to do to beat Andale? And they basically said you have to play a perfect game. And if you watch that game on Friday night, they didn't play a perfect game. They definitely had some mistakes even in the second half when they were making that big comeback. But they're still able to get it done. What does it mean going forward? Obviously you start with they're going to be that they win a district, they beat that rival that's right close to them, but it gives them a lot of confidence moving forward because odds are you're going to see Andale again in Sub-State. There's still going to be different sides of the top half, bottom half of the bracket. So if both of those teams can get through the 3A West side, we're going to get the rematch of that overtime game come later in the year. as far as Andale, I mean, like you guys were saying before I hopped on, right back to work for them. Andale is still the program is still Andale. They play Pratt tonight. I kind of feel bad for the Greenbacks because they're gonna get that wrath of them tonight. But yeah, it's like it's going to be still hard for us to ever really pick against Andale. I mean, I would say maybe Cheney has this year's Cheney team is just that different because they did come in with that much experience and that much confidence knowing they can do it. We'll see what Andale does differently later on, but it's just one of those things that Andale year in, year out, they are just that good. It's kind of like we've seen teams in the past in the area do it, like Conway Springs and Smith Center from our area. I grew up in Southeast Kansas, so St. Mary's Colgan, who's back on top of 1A, they were that dominant team for so long. That's just Andale right now.
All right, Hendo, I'm going to put you on the spot, man. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you a question for 3, 4, 5, and 6A. I want you to give who you think has a good shot. I'm not going to put you on the spot and make you pick who you think is going to win. Give me the favorite for those 4 classes, 3, 4, 5, and 6A. Give me who you think might be what people think are the favorites to win a state championship going into this last weekend. Who do you got?
Starting 3A, what we just talked about. I mean, I don't think you can not pick Cheney at this point just because of what we saw on the field last week. Andale's still Andale, but Cheney overtakes them as the favorite right away. Class 4A is Bishop Miege to lose. There's one of those teams, the thing with Miege this year, that they are just that good of a Miege team, and they've kind of proven it time and time again. They're only lost to Rockhurst on the Missouri side. As far as coming from the 4A West, I really don't know. I watched Buhler last night, and we thought Buhler might be the team. McPherson goes and beat them because McPherson is, once again, that good of a team. Abilene's been very good. Waubego's good again, so it's hard to tell, but it's hard to pick against Miege in 4A. 5A, I think it might be Capen's year. It's tough to, that's the one right there. It's like Mill Valley is like, you got to beat Mill Valley, but two regular season losses for them already. They appear to be vulnerable. Capen is chugging along, and they just look like an unbeatable team right now. Shout out to Northwest for getting it done early in the year on them. And then I'll go up to 6A. Still, it's hard for me to pick against Gardner Edgerton. I think we ranked Washburn Rural ahead of them. Washburn Rural, they completed an 8-0 season last night, so they're the only undefeated team left. But when we saw that Gardner team, I mean, that Olathe East, heck of an upset for them, the Hawks last week there. But 6A is very wide open. Derby, Northwest, East, all those teams. Manhattan, who plays Northwest tonight, can be another great game in the area. So 6A is tough. I think I have to lean Gardner though.
All right, last one for you, Hendo, here, and you mentioned a couple of these teams. So when we look at the City League this year, right, Capen needs to win to share. Is that how that works in the City League? East has 2 losses. Capen's the team playing the league game. Northwest and East are done. Heights with the chance to play spoiler. So is it a share situation between Northwest and Capen if Capen wins? And then after that, like, how important does this week factor into that playoff scenario you just rolled out there? Is anybody going to move one way or the other?
So one correction, East does play Carroll tonight. So that's still another league game there. There can be a 3-way tie at the top if East wins, and if Capen wins. Northwest has already finished their year with 1 league loss. So there will be, if all that happens because they each beat each other, it'll be a 3-way tie for the City League title.
Wait, East will play an extra league game?
No.
Right then,
East,
so they'll
East has 2 losses, one to Capen, and then the other was to Washburn Rural, which is a non-league.
Oh, okay. So I'm looking at the G-Wall. Standings on the City League, and that must be a game off. Okay, that makes more sense.
You just go by G-Wall. Yeah,
got it.
And you're asking for playoff scenarios as far as what could happen tonight.
Yeah.
So I would say
seeding. Does somebody feel desperate? I guess to sum it, like, is somebody desperate for a win tonight to put them in a better seeding position?
The one that's as far as seeding goes, I would say the one that we can really watch comes in Class 5A. And I kind of outlined this in our article that we had up this week. There's a chance that a team goes 6-2 and has to go on the road in the first round of the playoffs because there are so many teams just in a log jam at 5A. Like 6 different schools right now are 5-2. You have Valley Center there. You have Hutch. You have Goddard, Mace South, Hayes, and Salina Central, all sitting at 5-2. None of them play each other tonight. So Goddard, if
Wow.
Goddard's able to pull off the upset of Goddard Eisenhower tonight, who's still undefeated, they'll go be 6-2. They'll be right there. I believe it's Valley Center has a tricky game with Andover Central, so that's one to watch. The rest of those teams will be favored to get to 6 wins. That's the one that can really kind of create a shuffle, and then you're stuck with as of right now, looking at marginal points or average wins. Salina Central would be that unlucky team that's stuck going on the road despite a 6-2 record. But if a Goddard loss would drop them to 5-3, they would end up in that spot. So we'll see that Goddard versus Eisenhower game tonight. Pretty important for as far as seeding goes. Capon has a chance. I think they can still overtake Eisenhower. It would have to be a big win and then like a narrow loss for Eisenhower for them to get the 1 seed. But that's the one thing we can really watch for there.
Okay. Well, the good news is Hendo is a bracket expert
Yes.
on this stuff. And so one of the big things that Catch It Kansas does, I can tell you this from when I was more involved in seeing it, the brackets are insanely popular, and Hendo gets those up as fast as he can tonight after the regular season, sort of unofficial brackets, right? Because there's so many tiebreakers and different things, but that'll be up for you tonight. We'll have them in the Catch It Kansas show, which you'll find at 10:35 on the KSCW tonight. And of course, catchitkansas.com. This is one of the craziest weeks of work in the season, Hendo. I know it'll be a mountain, but we'll get it done and we'll have it ready for everybody. Good shooting tonight and good luck with those brackets.
Thanks, guys. Fun night ahead.
There goes Matt Henderson, executive producer of catchitkansas.com. We'll come back. We'll wrap up a Sports Daily for the most part here. Let's give away some hockey tickets on our way out here, Jad. Home opener tonight for the Wichita Thunder. You can get a family 4-pack, get that going the right way. Just call Jad, first caller to that IHOP hotline, 869-1240. Get their hand on some hockey tickets tonight. It is hockey season here in Wichita. We'll come back. More Sports Daily right after this. All right, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily. Fridays are nuts here. We make picks. We get a little high school football talk. We get Wyatt Thompson in. Appreciate all of it. If you missed anything, go back and listen for free on the Odyssey app. By the way, you heard Thursday Night Football last night. Primetime NFL games from Westwood One available live for free right here on KFH, of course, and available for you on the Odyssey app. Tune in Sunday night for Eagles-Dolphins on KFH, or you can download the Odyssey app and search for KFH at kickoff. Congratulations to Mike for winning those hockey tickets. A couple of minutes here, guys. And, like selfishly, could you just please tell me that the Rangers are going to win this series against the Astros?
Well,
Can we just could you just will it into existence for me?
Right.
Make it happen.
Well,
It's going to be tough.
It's going
to be tough, man.
Of course it's going to be tough, but it's doable. I mean, it's obviously they've come a long way. We all thought that the Astros would be better than the Rangers, but I'll tell you what. Yes, it's going to happen. You're going to be happy. Rangers.
Thank you.
Yeah, with props and everything.
I don't know.
Props.
Not so fast, my friend.
Yeah, not
as
so
Lee Corso would say.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, look, I would have felt a lot more comfortable if a 3-1 series lead as opposed to 2-2 even.
No.
I said it at the top of the show, Jacob. You give the Astros an inch, they're going to take a mile. You crack that door open for them, they're going to kick it right down. And advantage right now definitely goes to the Astros.
It does. What's so funny about it, and I think I said this yesterday, like if you had to draw a map to this series, this was a very likely outcome from the beginning, right? The Rangers win behind the only starters they've got left in the tank, basically, and then Houston's offense explodes. And now we get to this turning point. And so for Houston, it's can you beat one of the two Rangers horses? They didn't do it the first time through. And for the Rangers, it's like at some point you're just going to have to score lots of runs, and they got to go up against Verlander tonight to do that. So we'll see. I'm certainly concerned about Verlander round 2. I did not think Verlander looked very good in round 1. He's probably going to be better this time around. So it will be on no pressure, Jordan Montgomery, but you got to be as good as you were last time.
Right.
And I think he'll embrace that. And I am so dang nervous. I'm a mess. I'm a hot mess.
Yeah, I imagine. Hey, Tommy, who's on the mound for Atlanta tonight? Oh, wait a second.
Wow,
I'm not sure.
Thank you.
I'm not sure they're playing yet, are they?
I didn't even do anything to you, and I'm just out here catching strays on that. Like that. Yeah, we know the Braves are not in it anymore. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that.
I hated to do that. I really did. Hey, my Kansas City Royals were out in May, so don't feel bad.
Hey, Jacob, if you want to take your mind off of the baseball game tonight, you're more than welcome to come to the Thunder home opener at Intrust Bank Arena.
I will be covering
to the arena and watch hockey. You can do that.
Oh, man.
I'll be covering high school football. Friday nights are high school football for me, so I won't be able to do that. But we've got Mike going to the game in my place. Enjoy that 4-pack, Mike. But it'll be high school football. It honestly, most of the time, day games in the playoffs really, really annoy me. But my Fridays are set up now where this one actually works to my advantage, or maybe it's my disadvantage. Maybe I'd be better off not watching the game. But it actually, I think that I can get the game watched before I have to go in for high school football coverage. Otherwise, it would have been right in the middle of it, and that would have been a problem. So it actually works out for me today. The other reason it works out, at least in the beginning of the game, it's really hard for me to watch these games, especially the last 2 nights, and not violently swear about everything. I have a bit of a sailor's mouth, but when they're at night, I'm around the kids. I'm like, I can't say what I want to say. So from 3 to 4 o'clock during the game today, I'm just going to let it fly. Just absolutely no filter. Here we go. Let's see if they can get it done. Thanks for going down that road with me, everybody. A little venting done here. Nobody wants to see the Astros win. I haven't talked to you about this, Paul, right? Nobody wants the Astros to win this.
I mean, the Rangers, they're closer, first of all. And I love Dallas because of my association in Texas, and we go to Dallas and, have fun on an occasion. I love Dallas. It's a great dynamic city. I don't have any relationship to Houston at all whatsoever. So let's go Rangers. Let's go.
Except they're a bunch of dirty, rotten cheaters. That's all. That's all you need.
Well, there's that too. Yes.
869-1240 on that IHOP hotline, which has been brought to you today. It's been a busy IHOP hotline. Try IHOP's new slow braised beef pot roast or a savory country fried steak. It is a busy weekend here on the network. We'll tell you all about it next. All right, fellas, that's it. Jam-packed Friday. Glad to be here. You've got Jim Rome taking you next until Bob and Jeff from 2 to 4 today. Tomorrow, K-State, TCU, pregame coverage on the K-State Radio Network begins at 4 o'clock right here on KFH. At 6:30, Butler and Iowa Western over on KNSS. Sunday, Chiefs and Chargers on the Chiefs Radio Network at 2 o'clock. And then you've got Sunday Night Football right here on KFH beginning at 6:30, Miami, Philadelphia. If you're cruising around, maybe out of the area, you want to catch me on CBS Sports Radio, I'll be there Saturday from 4 to 9 o'clock. Good luck with your picks this weekend, fellas. Tommy, good luck tonight with the home opener for the Wichita Thunder.
Yeah,
Paul, good luck tonight for the East High Aces.
Yeah, and good luck.
We'll see you guys next week.
Have fun, Tommy. I'm glad it's here for you.
Sports, later news, and